You will know us as Drone Seed. I'm going to talk a little bit, that's going to change by the end of the day here. I'm going to talk a little bit about our journey building an end-to-end solution to restore burned forests at scale. We're going to establish that the problem to the reforestation supply chain is not an understatement. So a little on our journey. 2021, we raised a significant $36 million Series A with some very esteemed investors. We used that capital to acquire Silvaseed, 133 years old in 2021, and we built the tech to double year-over-year seed collections. We did that in partnership with local communities, and we now manage a majority of the Northwest forest seed inventory. We're making more seed available to frontline communities that are impacted by fire. And so I am pleased to utilize the day to announce another acquisition, which is of CalForest Nurseries. So with that, we now grow the majority of California's trees. So to encompass the whole suite of solutions from seed to seedlings to offset issuance in post-fire sites, we've created a new company. Mass Reforestation is the parent company for Silvaseed, CalForest, and Drone Seed. The mission, however, remains entirely the same: restore burned forests at scale. So now that we've established we are a significant player in the US supply chain, we can very authoritatively say the supply chain isn't there to restore resiliently at scale today. Not yet. It needs technology. So to take a look at wildfire emissions globally, in 2021, they were double that of Germany's as an entire country. In California, the 2020 wildfires emitted 127 million metric tons, one fire season. That eliminated 18 years of hard-won reductions by the state of California, which were only 65 million metric tons. That doesn't measure the yearly water loss, the water treatment, or the biodiversity. That's just one data point there. So it is absolutely critical to restore these carbon sinks. Now, how is it that an industry that's been around for decades isn't able to rise to the challenge? What has changed? Why is the supply chain overwhelmed? Well, the industry was accustomed through a century of fire exclusion to being able to have 10 years to respond to a 10,000-acre fire. That is obviously no longer the case. You're obviously all very aware of the numbers that are in the 100,000s, if not millions, regularly with multiple fires. And if the industry couldn't get to it, well, then nature could, right? I mean, that's what I was taught in high school bio. Forest burns, forest regrows, right? Well, think about what you know about glaciers, coral. With climate change, we're seeing a decrease in natural regeneration. It used to be around 90% would regenerate after a fire. Now we're seeing that drop to 60%, 40%, depending upon the species and the ecosystem. So every step of the supply chain is blocked. We don't expect you to know what those are, but it's the collection of the seed, it's the planting and cultivation into seedlings, it's getting it out to site, whether it's by people or drones, and then it's the finance, the paying for it. Because if the tree's just burned, well, typically, that's where the revenue comes from. The timber revenues pay for reforestation. So where's that money gonna come from? So what we're doing is we're tapping into a rapidly growing market of carbon offsets, projected to reach 50 billion by 2030 at 2 billion today, inside of a much larger market. And more growth is coming. So the SEC has approved a rule 3-to-1. Final language is out in April that publicly traded companies must disclose their emissions, which is going to provide a huge tailwind. So to tap into that, we've created reforestation as a service. And in 2022, with Henry Creek, we doubled landowner investment. So 300 acres, our offsets sold out. 2023, with Sheep Creek, we eliminated the need for landowner investment entirely, because again, where's that money gonna come from? And we're providing a return that is superior to timber on a net present value basis. And we 10x the size. So we're having those conversations around the offsets now. There are 7.5 million acres in just the US of other land managers each year that need these services, and that is what we are scaling to. We connect with local community members to work with these land managers. The consulting foresters who brought us the Sheep Creek project because they knew this would be a very difficult project to undertake. We have 2 million tons of projects in development and 10 million plus that were in dialogue, and that number is rapidly increasing. Now, carbon offsets. There's been some criticism here. We absolutely welcome that criticism. There's 140 plus standards right now. It accelerates the development of the highest quality offsets. Our offsets are top tier in quality, and the numbers show it just based on the volume traded, and also the highest price, which is removals, which are a subtype. That is because of the monitoring, reporting, and verification, that MRV, and the additionality that we do under the Climate Action Reserve methodology. So, reminder, these are forests that were unlikely to naturally regenerate. There's a 1-year confirmation by an accredited third-party forester who comes out after the last planting a year later, and there's 100+ years of funded monitoring by a nationally accredited land trust, another third party. They get an endowment, much like a college. It's invested in the market, provides a percentage return. That's what pays for an annual site report and a site visit every 5 years for the next 100 years. Lastly, there's an insurance buffer pool. What happens if there's another fire? Well, every project, just like auto and health insurance, contributes into the buffer pool. And if there's a reversal, then the offsets are removed from that buffer pool. So our purchasers, like Shopify and others, know that it's either coming from our project or the buffer pool. Now, we expect fire to happen, but we expect our trees to live, and that's because we plant at much lower densities. We plant multiple native species, that's polyculture, and we collect seed from as close to the fire as possible in advance of the fire, ideally, but often after the fire as well. So really good reforestation is a hell of a lot of work, and that is why our first project sold out. And these are some of our buyers, not all of them, because there are still some announcements that are coming. But these entities are deeply excited about the tech that we are bringing to enable this growth. The software that has enabled us to double year-over-year collections and make that seed available. The hardware that we're utilizing to cultivate and grow the seedlings in half the time. And we're growing the first purpose-grown plug or seedling for post-fire sites. So this optimizes for water and heat. We're utilizing a number of different technologies and are really excited about biodiversity monitoring and credits. And then we're doing all of this with no upfront cost to landowner and a return that is superior to timber on a net present value basis. So we are mass reforestation. We are restoring for resilience. We welcome the conversation and excited to be chatting with many of you today, and my colleagues here are able to have this conversation with myself. Now, I've whipped through this, so the QR code is there on there, so if you would like to take a look a little bit more,